Hello, and welcome to Turtleneck Tabletalk, the podcast that seeks insightful conversation while promoting our community. I'm your host, Devin, and this is the co-host, Austin Rimple, and we are ecstatic for today's episode because we have an incredible guest that needs no introduction, but he's going to get an amazing one.
He's going to get one right here.
Yes.
I got it even written out on my cell phone because I'm ecstatic to introduce possibly the most inspirational up-and-coming entrepreneur the Midwest has seen, monopolizing the WSU NIL market. Those are my own words. But he has hosted 3 different podcasts, Monroe County Entrepreneur of the Year, and graduated college, 80% ultra marathon runner. Please welcome Jacob O'Connor. Thank you for coming on, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. That's quite the intro there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we got to get quite the intro for.
Did a little bit of research pulling back to the high school days.
I was on that LinkedIn grind, researched it, and I think that's honestly one of the best ways of research I've found so far for people who are dedicated to updating their profession on Facebook.
Hey, deals get done in LinkedIn, man.
Deals get done on LinkedIn, dude. Yeah, I only got 2 deals done, which were both like pyramid schemes that I fell on track.
There's a lot of those too.
But they do get done. They do get done, whether they're pyramid schemes or not.
It's just a numbers game, man.
It's a numbers game. If you get 3 more people after you,
you're right.
But yeah, no, we're excited to kind of promote you today, learn about you, learn about what got you into entrepreneurship and what you've been doing, what you're doing today. So if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, I think that'd be a great way to start.
Yeah. I mean, where would you like me to start? There's so many different components.
We wrote that down too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to maybe kind of get into what got you started into entrepreneurship, if there's any story that comes to mind.
Oh yeah, I got a story for sure.
Okay. All right.
So let's see. Growing up, I always played basketball, right?
Yeah.
That was my go-to thing. I feel like I learned how to, hustle in the gym.
Okay.
That's always, basketball was my thing. I'd go into the weight room before school, and then after school, I did competitive basketball, traveled doing that. And when I was 16 in high school, my school offered this unique program called the Monroe County Startup Program, which you kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
But what that was is it was an opportunity, really. It took students out of school for the first 2 hours every day and put them in the community in Columbia, Illinois, where I went to high school. And we got to meet with local business owners and other entrepreneurs. We got to tour their businesses, understand how their deals were done. And at the end of that program, they challenge you to start your own business. And so I ended up coming up with this idea for a air-based technology seat cushion for truck drivers to help alleviate back pain and promote proper posture. One of the issues with truck drivers is that whenever they're long haul and they're in the truck for so many hours every week, is they start to develop different types of cancer associated with the way that they're sitting. And a lot of people don't think about it, but whenever you're sitting in the same place, unless you are moving back and forth, you have a lack of blood flow in the buttocks and thigh area. And so by using an air-based cushion with different cells, if you lean to one side, air will come up the other side, and it will help level you out and help with the blood flow. And so that's what I ended up doing, and I won Entrepreneur of the Year was, nice. I guess, the title for that in the small little community of Columbia, Illinois. But more importantly, that landed me an internship with a global manufacturing company called Permobile. They actually make the patented air cell technology that I was using in my cushions, and they happen to be based like 20 minutes away from the hometown I grew up in. And so it was just like a great coincidence. And they ended up helping me out, make some prototypes, and asked me if I wanted to intern on their product development team. And so I was 16 interning on their product development team.
Wow.
It was like a 30 to 40 year age gap between me and everyone else in the team. And so naturally what I did was whenever I had downtime, I started listening to podcasts. This was back in like 2018 or so. So podcasts were still relatively new, or at least for myself in high school. I had just found out about them and not many people that I knew were listening to them, but I got really into them. And the idea just kind of came to me that you can sit down and talk to basically whoever you want and share that conversation out on the internet. And it just gives you access to a whole new group of people, because I think I got on LinkedIn, ironically enough, that same year when I was 16.
Yeah.
But I was messaging people. I was like, hey, you want to hop on a phone call? I'd love to learn what you're doing. I was just searching like angel investor, venture capitalist, entrepreneur, trying to find people to network with. And they would all say, I don't have bandwidth, which I would look up and what is bandwidth actually? I'd figure out what they were saying, but no one had time to meet with me. But I realized that if it was a podcast, then people, A, they love to talk about themselves.
Yes, for sure.
B, it helps promote whatever their mission is. If they have some sort of consumer-facing product, then hopping on a podcast helps promote it. And so I realized this mutually beneficial relationship. If I hosted a podcast, I could ask my questions and start to learn and build my network, but it also was valuable to the guest.
Yeah.
So I started podcasting my senior year of high school and started the Venture Mentality podcast, where I ended up interviewing 150 plus people, the co-founder of Netflix, pro athletes, Olympic athletes, country music artists, entrepreneurs, just a whole bunch of great people. And long story short, that got me a full ride to Wichita State.
Wow. Yeah, that's threw out quite some terms there too. And yeah, but that's so cool to hear about how your podcasting journey has kind of led you to that. And kind of a segue into what you learned in entrepreneurship. So I don't know if we want to get right into the podcast section of it right away, but I think it was super cool to learn about you through that myself, and then also hear the advice that you were getting and stuff like that. So what were some of the like really, really influential, you mentioned the co-founder of Netflix. What were the influential podcasts that made you kind of realize, oh, I'm doing something really awesome here?
I think every one of them was like, whoa, I can't believe I'm going to talk to these people. Like, it was incredible. I do have some good takeaways, but I will say just off the top of my head, two of the more influential ones, like you mentioned, the co-founder of Netflix, that one was just surreal. Or I guess three of them. Co-founder of Netflix. The second one was Scott Budnick, who was the executive producer of the Hangover movies. Those movies are so funny, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy is the producer of them. He like literally wrote the script and came up with the movies. And so getting to hear his creative process and how all that came together was incredible. Third one was Andy Frisella, who's a local entrepreneur from St. Louis who founded Supplement Superstores and First Form.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so he is just huge. And so whenever they got into their new headquarters, which is still in St. Louis, but they relocated to this massive facility, basically a compound. Yeah. It's got their own built-in gym, just state-of-the-art facility.
Wow.
And as soon as they opened, I was leaving. I'd been trying to land this interview for about a year. And as soon as they opened, it was about a week before I had to leave for college, go to WSU. And so I was like, man, I got to get in there. I got to get in there. And ended up getting to get in there to do, I think, their first interview in that new headquarters 2 days before I left for college.
Dude,
and so getting to meet Andy, and they had like a Lamborghini in the front office, and it's just like such a cool experience. But yeah, I'd say those were three of the bigger episodes where it was like, wow, this is just incredible.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool to hear. And it's inspiring for us too, as we've been getting our own kind of network building. And I think, yeah, that's just something super cool. And I can't wait to see as that grows into maybe season 2.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I think, I don't know where question I was leading in with that, but
I guess kind of continuing with that. So you started your podcast when you were young. Like, what was that process like with just like actually like starting it? Because a lot of people have things that they want to do, but to actually be like, you know, that young and to be like, I'm going to go and start this podcast. Like, how did you like get it started from the ground up type of thing? Like, what was that process kind of that like?
Anxiety
it was terrible, man. It was so bad. Like, I was asking Justin, your producer, about all the equipment before we started this episode, right? When I started, I knew nothing, man. My first episode was on Zoom on my family's laptop with a pair of Apple headphones plugged in, like holding the mic right there and pretty much yelling into it, not understanding why my sound was so muffled and loud and what the audio waves meant and what that little red bar was that kept shooting up when I was talking too loud. I didn't know what any of that meant. And so it was a really difficult process, but like most things, you can Google it, you can find YouTube videos, you can start to learn, but it took a lot of repetition. And so I've debated going back and like deleting the first 50 episodes of the Venture Mentality podcast, because I still think that they're just so bad, but it's important to go back and be able to reflect on them. And I've definitely learned a lot since then, but it was a long journey, and I'm still learning a lot as I go.
Yeah, that's the cool and exciting thing about being a creator, is that you are just constantly learning things. And it's like, once you kind of think that you kind of have a good grasp on something, then something else happens and you like, it's just continuing to evolve and everything like that. And that's like, makes it super exciting.
Yeah, they call that the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the idea that you start off on something, you're like, oh, it's not that hard, I could do it. It's that overconfidence. And then as you start to do more and more of it, you realize how small you are in such a large bubble and how many things you don't know relative to that topic. And that definitely was a real effect for me.
Dang, yeah. Dunning-Kruger effect?
Dunning-Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger effect. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You're throwing just so many terms at us, man. No, yeah, that's super cool. Besides just learning and stuff like that and switching podcasts from venture mentality to real conversations now, what would you say has been like the biggest thing that has progressed for you in that?
I think having to grow your skills as an interviewer is something incredibly difficult. That takes like a lot of difficult reflection. I listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I love Joe Rogan. I think he does a great job of being able to talk to people and understand, like put politics and all of the topics aside, but rather look at his pure skill set as an interviewer. I think he's incredible. And so that was something that was difficult off the bat because A, I was nervous. I was audio only for a while. I wouldn't even turn on the camera. So getting over that, and then B, turning on the camera and understanding that's a whole new layer of, you can learn how to talk and ask questions and say things, but being on camera and being comfortable and not getting that. Some people, you turn a camera on, they just get so anxious. And that is a real thing you have to learn to overcome. And so those were difficult things, but I think the biggest thing for me, again, is just learning how to be a good interviewer and ask the right questions and be comfortable holding a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That helps with networking too as well. But yeah, with the camera aspect, it definitely turns the anxiety up a notch. I think something that probably has helped with their networking and moving into starting the player card, that's probably helped that a lot. What was the process of then getting that started after getting over the fear of starting a podcast and then starting that with John?
Yeah, thankfully, I was much more comfortable starting Player Card than I was starting the podcast because with the Venture Mentality podcast, I also formed an LLC, a limited liability company. So that's a legal entity, and I sold merchandise, and I had to start learning how to do some of that business stuff. So when I started the Player Card, that was more of, it's a brand new industry. It's name, image, and likeness. So I started that in July of 2020, right when the NCAA overturned the previous regulation. So college athletes were now allowed to earn money off their name, image, and likeness, or rather than money, the word they used was compensation, which is broadly defined. And so it was a whole lot of legalese and learning what does this mean and interpreting that and keeping up with like, okay, they just kind of tweaked this rule and, there's no state legislation here. So then it goes to the national governing body and just like having to figure out all of the kind of legal situation with that was a bit more of the challenging side rather than the actual business component.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds very tricky to navigate.
Yeah, but we have good people in our network who have legal experience and offered us good advice. That's the cool thing about what you guys are doing. Anyone who starts a business or a podcast and you're young is you find people that want to take a chance. They want to help you because in order for anyone to get anywhere, they need some sort of help. Like if you think of it as a ladder and people that are higher up, they want to put a hand down and kind of help you get up to that next rung. At least that's been true in my career, and I've seen that in a lot of other people's as well.
Yeah, it is super nice, especially once again, just doing the podcast, like you said, doing that with Justin here at Shocker Studios and just seeing all the help we can get is super amazing. And you got a lot of help doing the Player Card with restaurants and the athletes themselves. What was the process of kind of merging those two together?
It was difficult because let me restart this. When John and I started Player Card, it was originally an app that we were going to use as a double-sided marketplace, which if you don't know what that means, think of like Airbnb. You have people that are providing the housing, that's the supply side, and you have the demand side, which is the customer, the person who wants to stay at the Airbnb. And so we were trying to do the same thing. Our demand side was, I guess, the restaurants in this case. They wanted new ways to market, and name, image, and likeness was a new way to provide access to those athletes. So the supply side was the athletes. So you have to build up both sides at once, which is something that's difficult to balance. And so the way that we started was John and I had a couple, I guess really we had one friend on the track team. His name is Brady Pollen. We're still good friends with him to this day, but I met him freshman year in the dorms. And when I decided I wanted to start working with college athletes, I called him up and I said, hey, if I was able, this was literally the first call, I called him out of the blue. We hadn't talked in like a year. I go, hey, if I was able to get you a free meal like once a month at a restaurant in Wichita, would that be of value to you? Would you post on your social media about that? He was like, yeah, I guess. Like, why you call me out of the blue asking me about restaurants, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the premise behind it. And so what I did was I took that yes from him. And I went to Social Tap on campus. Yeah. And I said, hey, I've got a college athlete who, he's got a decent Instagram following, nothing huge, but it's Wichita based. That's local value, if he came into your restaurant and posted on his social media, would you comp his meal? Would you get him like a free burger or something? And the guy was nice enough. His name was Luke Luttrell. He's a good mentor of mine. He said, yeah, have him come in here. Let's get a couple of athletes. If you want to, again, someone helping you up the ladder, taking a chance on you. It's like, let's get a couple of athletes and let's see what this looks like. I'm not afraid to lose a couple dollars trying to help you out. And so we ended up grabbing a couple of athletes, a couple of Brady's friends, and doing that first little pilot run. And it wasn't an overwhelming success, but it was cool and it was exciting. And so that gave John and I the confidence to try and continue to do this with other restaurants in Wichita.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start. Because, like, that's kind of I think of a story where it's kind of a dumb joke, but, like, there's a guy who has his son where he's like, hey, Bill Gates, if you marry my daughter or whatever, my son's like the leader of the World Bank. And then Bill Gates is like, oh, if your son's the leader of the World Bank, then yeah, I'll let him marry my daughter. And then he goes to the World Bank leader or whatever, and he says, hey, my son's married to like Bill Gates' daughter or whatever. And he's hey, my son's the leader of the World Bank, or married to Bill Gates' daughter. Will you let him become and seems like that. I don't know why that triggered in my mind, and if you even understand that or not, because I explained that a little.
No, that's
yeah, it's there.
What's the process of that called? Like, kind of like promising one thing to a guy and then saying this guy will give you this, and then
it's the equivalent of when you were a kid and you said that, hey, my friend's mom said it's okay if I come over if my mom says it's okay. So
yeah.
You got one person who's contingent upon the other person, but neither of them know that it's like a double bluff type of situation.
Yeah, double bluff. There you go. So you a poker player or not?
No, I played a little bit of blackjack with John, just for like we play with like tabs or something, not real money.
Okay.
Still need to learn how to play poker.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that'd be good. I feel like that'd be a good networking tool maybe for the business world.
Like that, like golf. It'd be like
golf.
Kind
It'd be
of
the equivalent of golf.
Yeah,
I will never play golf.
I can't golf either.
Okay, mini golf though.
I mean, mini golf's fine, but you don't see many deals. Again, deals get done on LinkedIn, not on the golf course.
That's true, man. That's what I'm gonna take away from the day.
Yeah,
no, because I was always wanting to start like a mini golf place. But maybe I have to do that through LinkedIn, not on the mini golf course.
Yeah.
Well, that one might be better to do in reality.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. I don't know if we want to transition to what you've been doing now, and you just got a job. You just graduated. Do you want to talk about that a little bit and let the audience in on what you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. And a lot of the words that are like, once you get into something, a lot of the words that you used are not as commonly known. So if I say anything, you're like, what does that mean?
Hold up.
I never want to be the guy who's just like using these words and sounds like, oh, I'm so whatever.
No. Okay. I got it.
So right now I am running an angel investment group. And the title of that is syndicate manager. And so it's a non-for-profit in Wichita called Nexus, which is an entrepreneurial support organization. They do incredible work. They work with local entrepreneurs and try and help them start their companies and accelerate their growth. And then once they're at a point where they need to raise money, that's whenever they come to my group. And my group is a group of high net worth individuals. We call them angel investors.
Okay.
And so rather than a typical venture capital fund, which has all of the money collected at once, what we do is on a per deal basis, we bring an opportunity to the group. If the group likes the deal, we collect their money. We call that syndicating. We syndicate the deal and we invest it into the company. And so my job is to handle all of the investments and to source those, do the due diligence, and just kind of handle the investment group.
Okay. If you had a way to compare that with Shark Tank, I feel like that might be it.
No, honestly, Shark Tank is it gets a bad rap whenever you compare it to Shark Tank in the industry, but on a very basic level, I would compare it to Shark Tank.
Okay.
We have 2 or 3 groups that we have 2 or 3 companies we put in front of the group every month. And they pretty much say, yeah, I'll invest in them or I won't. And they can ask questions. It's a live pitch. It's rather similar to Shark Tank, except for we have the back office financial stuff we have to do too.
So that's the main difference I was kind of hearing from somehow not really having the money yet, but still investing it into. Is that part of how it works?
Yeah, it's rather than what venture capitalists do, which is what most people think of when they think of my job, is they take high net worth individuals. Let's say someone's got an extra $100,000 laying around. You find 10 of those people, you put it together, that's $1 million, right? So you have that $1 million and it sits in a fund. Think of it like a bank account. It's just sitting in a bank account. And so now your job running this venture capital group is to say, I'm going to invest that money into 4 different companies. So $250,000 into each company. You don't need their approval. You just go off and do that on your own.
Okay.
So you have the money up front. That's venture capitalist. An angel group is saying, I'm going to find the opportunities. They're not going to give me their money up front. I'm going to bring them the opportunity. And based on the opportunity, they could put in $0. They could put in 100,000. They could put in 500,000. They get to have that choice.
Okay.
The yes or no.
Okay. Very cool. I see. I think I see it. Now it is more similar to Shark Tank to me now. I was trying to like make a comparison, but yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
What's been probably your, I don't know if you can tell stories of businesses that go through there, if that's allowed or not.
I don't have a lot of stories, businesses
have
to
a
go
lot of
through
stories,
because I started about a month and a half ago.
Oh, okay. That
So
would
it's very-
So I'm pretty new.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
what's been the best part of it for you so far?
I'm a networking guy. I
Yeah.
love meeting our investors as well as the founders, the entrepreneurs. I think it takes a certain type of personality to say, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to make this work. And I think it takes a lot of ambition. And so I love that. And it's also cool to meet with our investors. And, you know, I'm a young guy. I want to obviously do well in life and to ask them, hey, you know, what have you done that you think has separated yourself from other people? How are you in this position? What advice would you offer? That's where a lot of my podcasting background comes in, is asking those questions. And so I think I see a lot of overlap there that I enjoy.
Yeah, that's cool.
So kind of continuing off of that, what has been like some good, solid advice that you've gotten from?
I mean, it always kind of depends, right? You'll have your people that tell you get into real estate. You'll have your people that tell you go work for a wealthy individual for free, and then you'll learn all your skills from him. And I think it's kind of a mix and match of everything. You can find a way to make as much money as you'd like. I think the biggest learning that I've had, and this is nothing new to me and nothing new to you guys, but just start something like this podcast, like just start doing something. And as your job is to create more collision points in life with the right people to bring you the right deals. You can't often predict how it's the Steve Jobs quote. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. You can't connect them looking forward. And so your job is to bring the right people into your life so that as time passes and you continue to do something, you collide with these people over and over again until an opportunity comes and intersects those collision points. And so I think starting a business, starting a podcast, doing something that separates and differentiates yourself, puts you in that collision course to meet awesome people and do great deals.
Yeah, dude, that speaks a lot on like preparation for yourself as well. What are some ways you kind of do that before going into a meeting with either an investor or a podcaster? Some things you like to kind of put yourself through, maybe creatively, maybe like motivationally?
Yeah, I often think I overthink is one argument I would make.
Yeah.
But I think I do it in a positive way to where before I go into a meeting or a podcast, I will often try and think about the entire podcast, which is like, why would you try and think through all of what you're going to talk about and every little, like, if I say this and I want them to say this and I want to segue to this topic, it's like really thinking about each little word that you're saying and how you're positioning that to the next topic.
Trying to script it almost.
Not script what they say, but get to the certain talking point that you think will do the best for the audience or to get them to answer a question. There's this great saying, at least for investing, that is ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, and get money. People want to have a vested interest if you can. It's all about the way you position things. People have a vested interest if you get them involved in what it is that you're doing. They want to find a way to help you because, well, now they're involved in it. And so I try and think deeply about what do I need to say and what questions do I need to ask to make this episode a success? And then you need to define what is that success for this episode or for this podcast? What is the outcome that you desire? And how can you get there in a meaningful way? And so I think that's good. More practically, what I used to do for the podcast is I would write out like a really long intro. I would do just hours of like, what is everything this person did that they may think that I don't even, like, how could I find that, you know? Try and find all the little information. Now it's just more of, I'll usually go online, listen to a podcast they've been on. I'll read some articles they've been in. And now, because I really want to challenge myself, I don't script any of my episodes. I don't do an introduction besides my introduction that I do standard every episode. I don't give them a long
Great introduction,
intro.
by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I don't write down questions to ask them. Everything I do is just on the fly.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think, and that speaks to like learning again once with the interviewing process, just being able to talk like Joe Rogan or whoever it is, which is super cool. Yeah. what was the thing I was gonna ask from it? I don't know if it was about the intro or not, but I do. I'm gonna talk about it because I do like the Teddy Roosevelt quote.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna see if I can quote it here. It's not the doer. Wait, no, I'm not gonna be able to quote it. I feel like you probably can quote it by now if you can.
Yeah, let's see. I have to go through the entire intro in my head.
It's not the. It's not about the. Oh, okay, you know.
No, I can't think of it all the time. You know what's funny though? Is I've done that like so many times. You would think I have it memorized.
I would think you have it memorized.
Yeah.
Dang.
But it's all about the man in the arena.
So that's what it comes down to. It's not about the person watching. It's about the person actually starting things, actually going and talking to people, which is cool to see. And that's what kind of inspires me to bring you on here and bring other people on here who are really trying to promote what they're doing. I think that's really been the goal of this podcast, and I've
For sure.
really been glad to see it produce.
How many episodes have you guys done now?
You are our 8th episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good work, guys.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thanks for the
What was kind of the motivation with starting it?
motivation. So we're rugby teammates.
Okay, cool.
We were at
No, we
last-
basically, what happened, I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's pretty popular.
10,000
We just hit 10K.
Oh, dude, congrats. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Thank you.
Congrats.
But yeah, basic bros reactions. But I had Austin come on one time because I was needing guests, and he came on, and we had really good like chemistry, and it was like it just felt really good, and from knowing him on the rugby team, just connected really well. So we went on a trip to Arkansas. For our last away game and whatnot.
Yeah.
And while we were there, we were pretending to like interview our teammates and stuff. And they thought that it was they thought we were really like interviewing them for a
nice.
real
Like,
podcast
dude,
because
could we do this for real?
and then we were like, we should make this happen. So I was joking with Austin that we should do it and whatnot. And so few months down the line, after with just kind of randomly, because I don't forget stuff, and I'll be like, yeah, Austin, how's the podcast coming along type of thing. And so randomly, I mentioned it to him, and he went and met with Shocker Studios and Justin, and got the ball rolling, and then we just
kept it rolling, man. Yeah. So it's getting ready to be released, but we'll see what the time frame is. Yeah. I guess at the point when people are watching this, they'll know. So
No, that's awesome. The most important thing is to keep that ball rolling. Like the amount of I almost had a podcast that there are out there.
This was very close to being
that doesn't matter, you know.
Right.
And don't let that ball stop rolling. After the Venture Mentality podcast, I took time off, and losing that momentum is incredibly difficult to get back.
Yeah.
And so just keep going.
Was it almost just like a restarting process?
It was 100% a restarting process. Yeah. So
had to relearn everything.
Yeah.
The equipment, the interviewing tactics, and all that.
I mean, some of that came back for sure, but like momentum's a very real thing. Like if you ever get one good guest, I guarantee you'll get a second good guest within another month. It's just like keeping that ball rolling of asking questions and trying to reach out to people. And it's just like, it's so much harder to pick a ball up from a dead stop and get it rolling again.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, yeah, we've had a few of those moments, but it's definitely momentum is real, man. And it's cool to hear from you for sure. But
what's the strategy with releasing a season at a time rather than like doing an episode? Like I release one every week.
Yeah. Well, I think the season was so we could have a clear vision with the people we selected. So we chose 3 athletes, 3 business people, and 3 artists.
Oh, cool.
So we could actually, not just say, hey, we're doing this to go interview people, which is it's a fine thing to do, building growth in your community. But we wanted to specifically target those areas. And we each picked one and agreed on another. So that was the kind of the season approach.
Yeah, and then we also wanted to have a second to after we had filmed everything and kind of upload it, because we'll have like our bonus content, and we wanted to kind of have a little bit of time to be able to evaluate how we're doing, what direction we want to go. Is one segment picking up a lot more traction than another one, and just kind of like just to have some time to evaluate ourselves too, to have that time while the season is going. So once these are once this is being released, we'll be probably filming for our next season and everything like that. So it'll hopefully just continuously be going.
Get that momentum rolling.
But yeah,
That's
keep
cool.
it going type of thing. But
For sure, yeah.
What's the long-term goal with the podcast?
long term, we still need to like set out a clear vision. But there is some possible future works that maybe could use some venture capitalism, like turtleneck merchandise. What we'll see with that. But I think the future is like kind of just keep it rolling, see how it can develop after season 1, because we're just starting. We're just kind of getting our feet wet and then really establishing what we want to do from there. But yeah, I like how you turned the podcast interview for you into
yes.
I was like, oh, that sneaky guy. No, but
just curious, man.
No, and that's what I appreciate about like listening to your podcast. It really shows through in how you can interview all those guests and really get their goals and see how that like their passion aligns with that. And that's something I kind of wanted to transition into for you about like what your eventual goals are. I know you've done a lot of stuff from athletics to business. So if you want to talk about all that and what's relevant, you think, to your growth in social media, podcasting, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's weird whenever you mention like social media, because honestly, I don't like social media.
Yeah.
But I think it's relevant for podcast growth and awareness and building that community. And so I've had to spend a lot of time with content production lately, making reels and all that type of stuff.
The worst.
Yeah, it takes a minute, man.
Yeah.
But I think I've realized maybe 4 things about myself. One being is that I can never just do one thing at a time. I've tried, and I always have to have multiple things going on. I just get naturally distracted and need to.
That's interesting.
If I get frustrated with one area, I got to go work at something else, and then go back to that. And so I think the way that kind of looks at my life is I'm always going to work out. So that translates to the tagline of the podcast is do hard things and live a meaningful life. My doing hard things is typically through, I like to run ultra marathons. I like to lift weights, doing hard things. I like to do things with great people. So I find that meaningful and that to be a great value to my life. So doing hard things, doing with meaningful people, and podcasting. If I could do that every day, those 3 things, I'd be a very happy man. I'd be the happiest if I also had a business. Yeah. And so the podcasting arguably is a business, but I like operating something and diversifying outside of the podcast as well. And so I think for me, like the goal and the direction I'd like to head in my life is to continue to do hard things physically, to do them with great people, and to do business with myself, but also great people, and then to do a podcast with great people. And so all four of those things would be kind of where I want to head.
Yeah, it's cool to see just being able to excel in so many different areas of life, especially running ultra marathons. I don't know how many people really do know you watching this, but you're able to do an ultra marathon, which is insane to most people. There's a small percentage that are like, yeah, maybe I'll do that, but very small. So what? I know you have podcasts on your process on that, but if you could speak to that a little bit and what that was like getting into.
So it's a funny story because, he's pretty much a meme. We've all heard of David Goggins, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
who's gonna carry the boats?
Yeah. So who's gonna carry the boats, man? I always listened to him in high school, and it was great. Honestly, he got me fired up in the morning.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, man, I need to run an ultra marathon one day. But I was always so focused on basketball that I didn't want to get injured trying to cross train for that. And so after high school, I was like, all right, I'm going to run an ultra marathon one day. Didn't do it freshman year. Didn't do it sophomore year. I graduated in 3 years. So I guess my junior, senior year, which was last year, I was talking to my cousin. He's about my age. He's a wildland firefighter. And we always do crazy, fun, stupid things together.
Yeah.
And we were talking like, what's your goal for this winter, right? Because we always try and set goals because we got to have something we're working towards. And I was like, I'd really like to take a couple weeks and actually train for a marathon. I'd done one marathon prior, and it was just like I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna do a marathon today, just out of the blue. It was ugly. It was terrible. And I was like, I want to train for a marathon and do it well. And so he's like, okay, let's do a marathon this winter. And so we had 6 weeks to train for that. And we're looking for a marathon to do. And he texts me and he goes, it'd be more fun than a marathon? I was like, what? He goes, what if we ran 50 miles instead? And I was like, oh, so you mean an ultra marathon? Yeah, let's just skip the marathon, man. And so we signed up for a 50-mile ultra marathon of Southern Illinois. And that was 6 weeks out with zero training.
That's
and
insane.
I ended up getting sick. And so I only got to train. So you usually taper about 2 weeks before the race, meaning that you cut back on your training, you do very low mileage. And so you pretty much, that doesn't count towards your overall training. So if you had 6 weeks, you subtract 2, you're down to 4. I got sick, so I had about 2 weeks total to train for the 50-miler. 2 weeks of training does not really equate to anything. So I went in pretty well with zero training to the 50-mile ultra marathon. This was last November, so come up on a year now.
Goodness.
And we set out, and in about 11 hours, we ran 50 miles, and we finished it. And it was just the craziest thing
That's
ever.
insane.
Like, what a
Yeah.
paradigm shift, because no training. Just like, how are we ever going to do this? There was so much doubt, but then we just kept going. We finished it, and I was kind of hooked. And so signed up for one in January. I took about a month and a half off after that to focus on weight training and just other areas, getting back to playing basketball and just fun stuff. And signed up for a 100-miler in Missouri. And this one was super hilly, had 14,000 feet of elevation change. And I ended up getting my tonsils out because I kept getting sick. And so through that process, man, I was out for about a month. I lost 20 pounds. I couldn't talk. I was spitting up blood like it was a mess, dude. And so I did not end up getting to train for that one either. And I ended up not making it 100 miles. I only made it 63, but I still enjoyed it. So I signed up for another one in July. And I went 80 miles in July. And then either November or January, I'm going to go back and try and get 100.
All right, dude. We'll be cheering you on
Yeah,
for that
that's
for sure.
intense,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So awesome, man. Yeah. And a bit about the accountability with your cousin. I feel like that's such a crucial piece of it. So crucial. And what was the is that what kept you going? Was it David Goggins, or was it the accountability with cousin?
No, it's the first race.
Or was it any of that?
It was definitely the first race. Was definitely like, he's not backing down. I don't want to back down. Like
Yeah.
we were both dying inside, but no one's willing to say anything
You're not gonna
about
say
it.
that. I'm not tired.
So
You tired?
it is important to find someone who's like willing to do that type of stuff with
Yeah.
you. John will do a lot of that with me
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Him and I did a challenge the January before that where I did 2,000 pull-ups in 6 hours and he did 2,000 push-ups. That was
That's not the most David Goggins thing I've heard.
literally, yeah.
like-
Like just follow David Goggins route, man.
That's awesome. That's
but
awesome.
yeah, you got to find people to do that type of stupid, fun stuff with you.
Yeah, for sure. That's great that that's why I think people see you as very successful, because you found a group of guys to have accountability with.
Yeah.
Excuse my grammar.
No, you're good, man.
Good.
I don't know about successful. I just do things I enjoy with good people. And if that means success to myself, then sure. But
What's your definition of success?
right? Yeah, that's an
there you
important
go.
question, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I said, dude, doing things with good people and feeling like I'm taking care of myself, making progress in life.
Yeah.
I think that is success. And I think quantifying success is a very difficult and dangerous game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people tell you to do, though.
Yeah.
Especially like, even just for me, like getting classes done, like how do I quantify like my effort for doing homework or something like that? And it's like, it's really tough, but dangerous, I guess, too. So I'll have to
Yeah,
kind of re-strategize maybe a little bit. I don't know.
deferring happiness to I'll be happy you win. And if that win is a dollar number or if that is some milestone you achieve, it sounds stupid, but happiness is not a destination. It's a progress and an ongoing journey. And so, I mean, I find happiness in doing difficult things, which is stupid but enjoyable.
Yeah, no, that satisfaction that comes after is just really, really awesome. Yeah, I think I kind of fell into that trap when we played rugby. We went to the playoffs. We were expecting to make a run, and we just got wiped out the first round. Like, what was the score? It was...
We had a little bit of a comeback, but you know,
it was like 50 to like maybe 20 or something.
How does rugby scoring work?
Scoring works, it's like a touchdown is called a try.
Okay.
That's 5 points.
Okay.
And then a conversion is 2 points. And you kick that directly behind where you touch the ball down.
Okay.
So it's, football copied us, whatever.
Yeah.
But, it's different. And that was exciting to learn for sure. And you ever interested in learning a little bit more about that, coming out to a practice sometime?
I don't know, man. I got to protect my body.
I will say this. I think it is safer than football.
I would definitely say that. Yeah,
It is safer than football without the pads.
That's
That's what gets everyone.
That's surprising, though. There's no pads. They're not
No
wearing
pads.
helmets. Like,
No,
I've
no
heard
helmets,
that,
no
though.
nothing.
I've got buddies
Yeah.
that played U of I and KU. They play rugby there.
Yeah.
And just crazy watching them go out and do that, but they say it's safer.
It's you can't hit above
the
the
head
above the
and
head. Or shoulders.
Yeah. And they go over like a lot of safety protocols, and there's like you go over tackling, and I think that with football, because you have those pads when you're trying to tackle somebody, like you're really trying to go after them and whatnot. But with rugby, it's kind of like because we don't have those pads, like it's more of a technique with the tackle, generally speaking, and
There's no false sense of security there.
Yeah,
type of thing. So
interesting
you're
with
not,
the helmet. Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting though. But you know, I always tell people, no, dude, we go out there, it's super safe. You know, we're tackling this stuff. But dude, I kind of hurt after the weekend. I hurt a lot. I just don't tell them that.
Yeah.
I try to get them out. But so
You got to get in an ice bath.
Yeah. And hey, I think you know a little bit about ice baths from listening to your podcast.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I need to get just a cow tank, set it in my dorm room, you know.
That might be a questionable call.
It might be a questionable call, but oh my gosh, ice bath feels so good.
Game changer for sure.
After you get out of them, so good. Yeah. Well, I think we have to wrap up this episode soon.
Yeah.
Oh, 5 minutes. Oh, we're good. We got so much time. But yeah. I guess how do we want to continue with this interview?
Huh?
How do we want to continue with this interview?
I guess. If people want to reach out or find out more information about you, can you give us like your handles?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'll plug everything.
Plug everything, yes.
All right, on LinkedIn, as you mentioned, just Jacob O'Connor. Instagram is at the Jacob OC, TheJacoboc. Podcast is Real Conversations. You can just find that Spotify, Apple. It's on Instagram, Real Period Conversations. And then if you're interested in the entrepreneur stuff, any of the angel investing, the website is nxtus.io, nextus.io. And then my group is Accelerate Venture Partners.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool to learn about. And I guess as we exit this interview, is there any parting advice you'd like to leave our audience with? You've already gave us so much.
But like if there was like one big takeaway that you would be like, I want our guests to remember this. Advice, what would it be?
It would just be start. Like whether it's you don't have to run an ultra marathon, but it's whatever goal you set. If you want to go run something, lift a certain amount of weight, start a podcast, start a business, like it's always just going to be a thought until you actually start doing it. And so it's going to be ugly at first. You're not going to know what's going on, but you have to just get started.
Yeah, amen to that. Maybe
thanks for having me on, guys.
Too. Yeah, appreciate it so much. It was an awesome interview, and maybe more in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, just let me know, man. This is great.
Sure. Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. You want to hit your outro, I guess?
Well, yeah, we just want to thank you once again for taking your time out to come out here and being on this podcast. You are actually like a really big inspiration. It's just been so cool to learn all these many different facets of you and all the things that you do. And it's been like such a great conversation and everything. And we're just really ecstatic that you came out. And
ecstatic.
Yeah, that's the word of the day.
Word of the day.
So thank you for coming out once again.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'm glad you guys got started doing this.
Yeah, we are too. We are too.
So don't forget to tune in to our next episode where we'll have another incredible guest. I don't know if it'll be, quite to this level, but hopefully, we'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in. And don't forget to check out us on social media at turtleneck.tabletalk on Instagram, on YouTube, and everything else. All of them. But thanks for joining us.
All right.